Hey, welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com. Hey, welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. On this show, we interview individuals that have a story of hope and inspiration. Today, I have one of my, probably the favorite band lead singers, Max Bemis of Say Anything. We're all the way in Texas, Tyler, Texas. I appreciate you being here, man.
Dude, thank you for being here. I just have to drive down the street. Basically, it's fun. I drove past the studio. That's how dumb I am and ADD that I drove past it. And I've lived here for 10 years. I still don't know how to get from within 10 minutes of my house. I got lost and had to turn around. I was like, I just passed it about 10 minutes ago, didn't I?
It's all right.
Literally had to put it in Google Maps. So.
No big deal. I passed it too. Yeah, man. I mean, Say Anything is one of my favorite bands, bro. You guys have totally influenced my childhood. I got clean to your music,
Awesome.
I always share this one story. When I first got clean, I had 6 months clean. Me and my father were always arguing and screaming, and he didn't think I was clean. It seems really trivial now, but as a kid, I really wanted to go out and whatever. And at 6 months clean, my friend John was like, "Hey, you want to go to a Warped Tour? Say Anything's going to be there."
Okay,
this is in 2008, and I was like, dude, I don't think my dad's going to let me. I don't know. And he was like, whatever, okay. So then I was like, you know what? I've been clean for 6 months. I should be able to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back the next day. It'll be totally fine.
Yep.
And I went home and my dad was just like, no way you're going. This is insane. You're not going to go.
Rock show.
well, in his defense, the last concert I went to was a Modest Yahoo concert, and
there you go.
I got tasered by the cops on acid.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So
it's funny. He comes from. I went to Jewish camp.
Oh, really?
So my counselor managed Modest Yahoo. So that subculture of intense Jewish stoner people definitely connects there.
That's so funny.
I could see it being a pretty dark subculture to it.
I thought it was a pretty good concert up until the acid made me go insane.
You're probably right. That might have been it. But I'd be afraid in a way of just you know what I mean? Because it's when does it go from Dave Matthews into Bob Marley, who I still love, obviously, but you know what I'm saying? It's that's where you have to kind of watch out. There is an acid.
I'm not a parent,
subculture.
but I would imagine that as a parent, your kid got clean.
But I would be
treatment.
Then you hear Modest Yahoo. I guess he was smart enough to know that there's some crossover.
I ended up going anyways, and
awesome.
I had this moment where I remember I was just freaking out. I was so upset. It's one of those things that you're a kid, you're not allowed to go to the party. You think it's the end of the world.
Yep.
I ended up went anyways. My dad was so mad, but I remember going to the concert and calling my sponsor and being my dad's gonna hate me, but I went to the concert anyway, and he was like, just don't use, and you'll figure it out. Yes. And I stayed clean. Went to the concert. You guys killed it. That's something I have forever in my life that I think about,
It is it makes sense too that you can kind of be punk like that and do things like that and subvert things, but not have to do it in a self-destructive way. You know what I mean?
It was a way of me rebelling
without screwing yourself
destruction.
over. Yeah, exactly.
It was rebellious without destruction.
Well, yeah, I would like to hope that that's kind of one of the messages of our band. It's funny, it's been confused, over the years at times, but I think anyone who I've wanted to get it or, have understand that message has comprehended it.
Yeah.
I don't always remember that. Sometimes I'm they don't fucking get it. The world doesn't fucking understand. But then I really, everyone I meet who does say that we had an impact on them gets all the things that I have tried to consciously, literally seed into my music from when I was 15 years old.
Well, all the music that I've listened to growing up, I would say Say Anything was one of those bands that your lyrics were just so in depth and interesting and different and had these crazy plots Alive with the Glory of Love.
Yeah.
Will go down in history.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's the darkest scenario ever. And, you can be depressed about the Holocaust or something, or you can just try to make something positive out of it.
It was I'm a big fan of satire.
Yes.
And it was that song is just so incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it's cool that you can it's like you can have comedy that's so dark or whatever, or a sort of like entertainment that is dark or satirical, and it can still have a redemptive quality.
Or just the fact that like love survives in war.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
But like, you know, if U2, who I love, like if it was U2 wrote that song or something, or if it was, I don't know, they're the best example, I think. You know, it would just be really sincere, and it would probably make you cry, and it'd be like, God, that's a beautiful song about the Holocaust. But like, we had to make it weird and funny, just because that's kind of how I am. I would like to think, but that does get misunderstood. It's funny, a lot of it's cool, but then it probably made sense to you because you have a lot of those same qualities, or you know, your friends have those qualities. And so I really, you know, I think I always put it out there that anyone could like it. There was no like social or like anything. I never hated hipsters or like emo people or punk kids, hip hop kids. It was all about just like who can have certain things that I think are maybe, I guess, similarly adaptive to me. Those are the people I want to reach and say something to.
Yeah, and like the emotions behind it, and like and a lot of your song, you know, like there's just so much emotion in it. I just remember, like, you know, for years, like screaming that song to the top of my lungs.
Awesome.
And the fact that it's like about the Holocaust is just like this like crazy play on words and scenic. You can envision the song.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's like you want to. Some people, you know, write music. My wife, for instance, like is like a genius, musical genius, and it just like comes out of her, and she's almost. I wouldn't even say she's conscious about trying to do it this way, because she can put in effort. She can do all the same things I do, but like she has a lot of those same things going on with her. It's just like, it just is this pure act when it comes to her, when it comes to creating. Like she's just like, boom, I'm just sitting here, I'm drawing, something beautiful comes out. It's like she's inspired, it happens. For me, I'll just sit and I'm like, okay, what is this going to be? Before I even start doing it.
You're thinking about the whole picture.
And for better or worse, you know, that doesn't make it good or bad. And a lot of times it is bad, but I will say, like, it is what I do.
How many times do you go back and like revise a song?
Not that much, to be honest. Like, I mean, when you're in the studio, you're doing a lot of takes and, you know, of the actual performance.
Do you write the song to the music, or
I write the music and the song usually.
Like together?
Yeah, but exactly. It is together. And especially like, I started doing this thing called Song Shop.
I've seen, yeah.
And the first time I did it was that Warped Tour, actually, because that was the only Warped Tour we did. It was the first time I did it. And I've been doing it since then. And I actually had to slow down the past few years because it really kind of ruined my life. But
it's basically a class to teach people how to write songs.
No, I'm doing that too.
Oh, you're doing that too.
But there's this thing that I've been doing since Warped Tour, which is basically personalized songs. So it's like it originally cost $150. So someone pays me $150. They send me like 2 paragraphs, you know.
Oh, and you write the song for them.
And I write a song for them about them.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And
so someone will give you a synopsis, and then
it'll have elements of your life, and it'll just be similar to kind of the stuff we do. And it's what was the most like amazing, gratifying, because it was so personal. It's like what I imagine maybe being like a therapist or doing what you do is kind of like where you really have to, you're taking in other people's like pain and you're trying to put your experience into it too. And sometimes it brings up stuff.
Are you just writing the song, or are you doing the music to it too?
I'm doing all of it. Yeah.
Wow. You do the music too?
So what I would do is like, eventually it became a thing. At first I would just do it the way I do normal songs, which is, you know, write it and then eventually play it. Sometimes I'll improvise certain parts of it, and that can go any which way. But in this case, like I got to the point where now I can freestyle like a rapper, which is like some of my favorite. Like at this point, I'm just only listening to rap most of the time.
Really? Get
it was
out
the
of
first
here.
stuff I ever liked. So it's like
you started listening to hip hop.
Yeah, and then like probably 3 years in, got way into punk, and that kind of took me out of it for a while. But then the past. Like, since I stopped touring,
maybe this is like your second calling is rapping.
It is, dude. But the new stuff I'm doing is more like that.
Is it more hip hoppy?
Yeah. Oh, totally. You know, without giving too much away about it next yet, because it's a whole. It's like I kind of see it as like the sequel to Say Anything. It's like the next big thing I'm doing, I guess. But it's more like a solo thing, and I guess I would compare it to like
Mac Miller.
Probably more melodic than Mac Miller, but like the later Mac Miller stuff, definitely.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I meant.
It's kind of like anything like Danger Mouse is produced, or like like later Justin Timberlake stuff, even when it started getting more like weird and indie and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, or Outkast, the weirder they got.
Yeah, you can't get weirder than Outkast.
Yeah, because it's like that. It's kind of like Beck is the best way I'd put it. Where it's like I'm still obviously like
I love Beck. I still listen to Beck
dude.
like they just came out.
Oh yeah, it's amazing, and it's like, yeah, I think if you really genuinely love that stuff, and if it isn't trying to do it to be current or cool, which is to me obviously the biggest cliche and worst thing ever is when someone tries to do hip hop to be cool. But if it's all I listen to, it's like I started to get frustrated that I couldn't just work and make that music. You know what I mean? It started to become like stifling that I couldn't. And part of that was going through so much personally that I feel like I stopped relating partially to the sort of average privileged experience of like an indie rock white guy. And I think that like to some degree I obviously am one, but then there's like, you know, whether it's like my Jewish element or I don't know, or just living a particularly like not run-of-the-mill for my cultural background thing to the point where I was like, okay, like this doesn't necessarily speak to me as much anymore, like the boredom element or just kind of like the here we are bored at the fashion party, let's talk about how profound that is. It became more like, okay, well, who's like actually seeing some shit that can like inspire me to get through like this intense fucking shit I'm going through. And I remember, you know, punk music did that for me for a certain amount of time. But then also when you see behind the curtain of certain things, it starts to become like, okay, now I just can't stop thinking about how like that person is a terrible person. Or that person like
never meet your heroes.
Dated my wife. Yeah, kind of honestly. And I've had so many never meet your heroes moments in the past like 5 years that it's like, and I wouldn't even say like, those are people that I like don't love anymore. It's just more like I literally had to let go of the thing that I would do, which was like I basically realized I was kind of had a thing for trying to have dad figures or older brother figures in my life where I would just be like, okay, you're kind of like me, so maybe I'll model my behavior after you. You know what I mean? And so not only did that attract me to literally the worst people to look up to for me, I don't mean for them, like they're awesome for their own life, they're on their own path. For me, it just didn't, because they would be attracted to something about me in terms of wanting to guide me or wanting to like just, or be guided by me. Yeah. It's like that kind of like Lennon-McCartney thing where it's a really cool friendship to have, but you've got to see it as a friendship. You've got to not see it as like, this is someone I'm now going to define myself by.
Exactly.
And it got me into some bad habits. It got me into some weird relationships. And it was just like, I eventually had to really go out on a limb with a lot of stuff, especially, you know.
What I imagine like being on tour, you meet so many other people that try to take you under their wing and like promise you all this shit.
And it started out like that. And that became obvious. We're like, okay, this friggin' industry is skeezy, just like the film industry that I grew up around, because I had idealized music, and I'm like, okay, no, it's pretty much as fucked up as Hollywood. It's just as bad. But there's also
I've come to terms that every industry is fucked up.
Exactly. So there's just as much good in it. But then it started to become, okay, it's not just that the industry is messed up. It's like that I can't attach myself to anyone's just like if I relate to someone's lyrics, I may have a really different journey than them. And I sort of started to, now I feel like I look to people for different, like my friendships are all very different with different people instead of feeling like, okay, you should be there for me because I'm going through a hard time. Like I may have a sort of friend who's a little bit more flaky, and I kind of have to be like
expectations and boundaries. And it's like, if you know this person's flaky, it'd be weird if they weren't flaky.
Exactly. And like I'm choosing to, you just have to choose boundaries. Exactly. How much am I going to let this person speak to this part of my life?
Yeah, I have a friend who's flaky as hell, and like all my other friends get mad at him. I was like, he's been flaky for 10 years.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
Like he's been flaky for 10 years. I have another friend who can't keep a secret. I'm like, I just know that motherfucker can't keep a secret. So like, I don't get mad, and that's also why I stopped telling him shit.
Yes.
And I don't think he does it maliciously. It's just like something that I know about him. There's stuff about me. Like, you know, I might not be flaky, but I'll probably show up 10 minutes late.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Or I'm like a bipolar rage demon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there are things about me that, you know, whatever. I've basically seen myself kind of at my worst and best over the past 5 years. And that was, you know, basically because, you know, the first part of my life was very much defined by trying to figure myself out. And it was hard. Like it was a pretty difficult, I mean, being bipolar, whatever that means, I still find it to be a very weird descriptor because I think everyone is on that
Everyone
spectrum.
is bipolar. Yeah,
Exactly.
At some
Like
point.
how can you can be more one side or more, no one's exactly right in the middle there or like your way, but I guess it goes to the point where I think the way I would define it, that some people, because if people are like, okay, well, what is that exactly? I would say it's just like, because most of my experiences have actually been like the manic and not the depressive. So it's like when I don't take my pills or if I stop sleeping, especially if I like smoke weed, I will be the way you are when you're shrooming.
Yeah.
Naturally. You know what I mean? Like, and that's mostly because when you're on drugs, you're like, okay, my body chemistry is doing all this weird shit. So how can I think of a bunch of stuff to compensate for that? Oh, it's because like there's aliens right there. Yeah. And then you see the aliens or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Everyone's a paid actor.
Right, exactly.
God,
yes. Yes. So that can happen to me way easier chemically. It's just the way I would put it. So, and that's really what I realized was just like how I try to make sense of a lot of emotions and feelings that bubble up, and that my chemistry, like I was kind of saying to you before we started, it's like, it depends on the society that you're operating in. Like there would be some potentially tribe that I'd be like, let's go.
If this was 200 years ago, you'd be a god. There'd be a statue about you, you know? And even in today's time, I think a lot of times people are idolizing it's really just like mental illness, especially with like musicians. Yeah, exactly.
I got to work with him and hang out with him, and it was like, like I obviously saw a lot of myself in him in that. It's like, I think it does get confused because of, to me, it's all about how capitalism and stuff like that affect it. And I'm not anti really anything. I've actually gotten in trouble for saying I'm apolitical, but I am apolitical. I just don't believe any of it. Like, I think
I'm the same way. So,
a lot of people are, they just don't want to talk about it. It's like, I think people...
I just feel like, how can I vote for someone or just know I never met them? You know how many times I've done all this research about someone, heard all these things, and then I met them. I'm like, well, they were nothing like I imagined. Or
and it's exactly. And then something comes up, and you're like, holy shit. And then everyone's like, okay, well, I guess I didn't like that person. So it's kind of, I just basically think that we're living in a society where homelessness is permitted, where like there are people just dying from starvation on the street, and we're like, the fact that that's even permitted by... Like, I would obviously be pigeonholed as just like a leftist thinker. I am to some degree. But like, then you kind of look at it and it's like those people are still approving of a scenario where there's still poor people and rich people, but it's a little bit better. Like, I want to see a world one day where there is none of that. You know, whatever that is, even if it's some weird metaphysical or God knows what scenario, my values are like that. This is not okay. Like, so I guess it would be far, far, far left. But then what does that even mean? That might be the same as some people far, who knows? Yeah.
Then you start getting into like, Brave New World stuff where people are like forced to take meds because they have mental, because I would say 50% of homelessness is undiagnosed or untreated mental illness. So then it's like, what do you do? Force people to take medication or whatever?
And my only solution is to say, like, I don't know well enough. Like, I'm certainly not evolved enough to...
I would just, for me, I just like to see that there's resources available for people who do want to help.
Yes.
Because I feel like you can't force people to get the help, but there are so many people that have gone to get help, and then it's like a 3-day fucking thing.
Oh my God. I mean, I will speak to... me, and it's funny, like I will say, it's like I'm almost whatever amount of like 20% famous I am, that is a lot related to my mental illness to some degree. Like I came out of that sort of scene and it was like, oh, there's the bipolar punk guy. Like that was my thing. But even with that, finding good mental health for the past 5 years, especially during COVID, has been a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's sad and it's not cool. And you can go into the whole bureaucracy of just like that there's just a lot of places where it's just not that cool. You kind of have to go to big cities where there's like a lot of, that whole thing. But what I've really seen in what you're saying about people having the option and to be heard is really what it is. If someone goes, hey, help. I think like part of what I'm saying, it isn't just like the capitalism and the homeless people. It's like, we are kind of conditioned to be insensitive to each other most of the time. And so not everyone, we're all trying to do, or not all of us are trying to do better. That's the thing. But I think probably we are in the room because we're aware of that. I've basically run up against like the first part of my life because it was actually conducive to people when people are like, oh, well, this bipolar thing is a thing. So like, let's get him help. Let's get him to the hospital, even when I was kind of resisting it. But I eventually gave in, and I sort of became a very high-functioning bipolar person. And then, thank God, like, that did prove inspirational to people, and that's amazing. And, like, the fact that I did get clean and all these things. But it was pretty easy for me, A, because of my support group, B, because of my, like, chemistry. Like, yeah, I'm one of the crazier people. When you get me manic, I will just be nuts. And I don't mean like violent or mean. I'm actually like sort of become very like Buddha-esque, but just I'm off in another world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, a lot of like symptoms of mental illness is like ideas of grandiose.
That's what it is.
Which really is like how any successful person becomes successful.
Yeah.
Is like you have to really think about yourself
so
at
they
like a
were
high
like,
level.
They're like, it's cool that you do this. And because of the like, it wasn't encouraged, but because of the satirical element, there was ways to kind of play with that were really conducive, and it became like a really nice, safe environment. People were aware of my shit. I'd go on tour, and they're like, he's got to get this amount of sleep. But then in the past, so I basically was almost not spoiled, because I think everyone deserves that. Like, I basically got the treatment that I think everyone deserves when it comes to mental health. Cool. But now that bipolar and like stuff like that is people are a little bit more aware of it. I've seen some shit in the past year, I'll tell you, that's weird with bias. But now it's funny that you guys are doing this, and so much of this has been about or can be about substances and stuff. And it's like, my wife, got sober, or pretty recently, and like her issues with substances came up only in the past few years.
Yeah. Which a lot of people don't see. Like, I see it because I work in the industry, but a lot of people don't see how addiction or alcoholism can develop in your late 30s.
Of course.
All the time, or mental illness. I know people that...
You could go your whole life and not know. You know what I mean? You could be Amish and not know that you could have the propensity to be addicted to things more than most people.
1,000%.
And so I think that's really what it is like, she was more unlikely to have this thing. Even to me, like, to the point where that's kind of what, to me, that actually speaks to the humanity of it, where I'm just like, this is so beautiful that this is your thing, and this is part of who you are, and there's nothing wrong with it. And it's like, of course, so many people have this particular coping mechanism that can be unhealthy.
And then the thing is that if it was cancer or any other type of disease, there wouldn't be like this shame or like what went wrong, or like this whole narrative of like, is Max a good husband, or like, what people say, and all that, like, oh, like, what's the underlying issue? And like, sometimes there are issues, and like, sometimes it's like, it's alcoholism. It happens.
I get it. Again, like, I can see it only because, like, I'm so I almost sometimes feel guilt. This is funny, and I bet like certain codependent people, because I've done the steps for codependency.
That's cool.
Can feel like bad for not having been addicted to stuff. Like, sometimes I'm like I kind of should be, shouldn't I? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like I can be obsessive. There's a lot of things, but just something was missing where my bad habits happen to be in other places. I think it's almost the instinct to, but exact codependency. That for me would be it. Would be doing things because of wanting to feel loved, or wanting to let someone else know I love them, to the point where it hindered that. Sort of how, like, essentially drinking or whatever, drugs are being taken most of the time to heal pain, or to numb pain, but then it makes it worse. For me, it would be like, I'm trying to express my love for someone, or to express that I know they love me, but I just can't do it because, like, I'm so wrapped up in what they think of me, and it's almost, I think, the opposite thing. So when I've seen, so basically I had to come to terms with, okay, wait, I do have a thing when it comes to this that has nothing to do with bipolar, and it has nothing to do with, addiction in that traditional way, but I see it as a form of addiction. So basically,
and when you work in the industry, you see trends. So, I know as someone who works in the industry that codependency often leads to someone being attracted to someone with alcoholism or addiction or whatever, because there's that whole saving factor. People are attracted to someone who's injured because they also know someone. Normally, like, a codependent person oftentimes had like a family member die of an overdose, and they never really got to save them or whatever. So now they have this new person. Now they get to relive and do this, which seems like a beautiful thing, but it could be a toxic thing without boundaries or whatever.
We were in a really good place, because like, keep it, like, the thing that like has been frustrating is like, people have voiced concern, whatever, since this has gone down with us. But it's like we were also, for so long and still remain to so many people who have a head on their shoulders and know more about this stuff. Like you guys we weren't, when people like, I guess, looked up to our romance or our family or anything like that, it wasn't because we were like some picture perfect family. Like we always had shit.
Of course.
It's just that it happened to be really conducive to life and society, and therefore like we weren't nothing intense. So what I was saying about my bipolar was like it fit that story to a place where it didn't make people feel as weird.
Yeah.
But once like drugs came into it, it was like
now they're like, oh, this guy's off the chain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like me too. Like that was the whole thing. Was like it wasn't even her fault. There was never a moment where she threw me under the bus or anything. It was just assumption by people, and we literally, especially me, because. One thing, a detail I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying is like and it's so common, is just that she hid it for so long. So basically there was all this stuff going down. She wasn't acting like herself and it was dark. And I was like, kind of reached out, whether it be to certain family members or to certain people who worked for me at the time. You're right. It was just like, Max, like you got to be more patient. She's having postpartum.
Yeah.
She's this is what
and like when
women do.
When you're having issues, you don't realize that this is like a typical thing that goes on with 30% of women or men or whatever. You just think this is you, so you don't want to tell anybody about it.
I get that. And so when she told me which was honestly not that long ago at this point, because she had had her ups and downs, she was just keeping it all to herself, and that's all part of the whole thing of it. And I know enough about it, like you said, because I do have family stuff with that, which is kind of, again, the source of my codependency. Like she basically, she's like, I guess I'm an alcoholic because I've been doing this in secret and I have not told you. And that's the only secret we've ever kept from each other, really. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's not a big deal. Like, if it's just that, no shit. No wonder you haven't told me. It's like, that's the definitive thing is the shame. Like, that's why you're doing it. Because if you didn't have shame, you'd be like me and be like kind of a crazy bastard.
And the thing is like no one drinks alcoholically and tells people. That's the whole point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's a cool distinction. And it's like, and that's how not that big of a deal it is in terms of like moral. It's a big deal in terms of its risk.
Yeah.
But it's not a big deal in terms of it has no say on someone's morals.
Of course. And that's what like we try to educate people is that like this isn't a bad person, this is a sick person.
Yes, yeah, of course.
You know, and it's like when people are like, well, they promised never to drink. Like the family is really caught up in like, well, they swore they would never drink and we had a deal and whatever. It's like, well, if this person's not in this type of environment, they have a very slim chance of ever not drinking again. If they do X, Y, and Z, they have better chances. And I'm not here to say that it's okay to relapse or keep drinking or whatever, but
it's so important though, the judgment
of it,
shame is
where you want to be on the same team, but you don't want to be a part of the enabling either, you know?
Exactly. And to me, like that was such a bizarre with my codependency, especially, but I think even if you didn't put that label on it, it would be hard for anyone who's with someone who has that particular issue, because you're like, it's like, am I doing too much or am I doing too little? You know what I mean? Am I enabling by not helping enough, or am I enabling by trying to help too much and therefore projecting and going, well, you got to make sure to go to a meeting. You got to
if you didn't go to a meeting tonight, then whatever. And then they're like, now you're breathing on my back and then whatever, which is why you leave that stuff to professionals, because I have parents all the time like, oh, my son's doing great. We drug tested him and he's living at the house. And I'm like, a mother really shouldn't be drug testing their kid because it's like this weird thing that it's like, you want to leave that to someone who's a third party.
Of course.
Because they're able to deal with it in a non-emotional type of way. Because
even like friends, like this whole the whole notion of a support network. And like, I think that's, I don't know an intense amount about like AA, but like just that system. And then even if you were doing it without AA, if there was a different way of doing it, just the notion of having people outside of the people who have the most emotional connection with you, because then there's going to be more triggering and there's going to be more of that projection.
And then usually like the addict or alcoholic like uses those heartstrings to like
not even consciously necessarily.
Of course, they're just like, well, we have so much history. It's kind of hard. It's like you always need like a coach to coach a team. You need a third party that's able to see everyone's position, because you can only see your own position. So that's why like you have a therapist. That's why you go to groups.
I have therapists. That would be like me trying to diagnose all my shit by myself. And like, thank God, again, like I have probably more on paper wrong with me. Like the fact that she has this issue, it's the most common thing, especially in America. It's like, this, but like, I guess it's hard to believe that there are some people that don't realize how common it is, I guess. But to me, I grew up just knowing that. And I mean, it wasn't just like my particular family. It was like, I guess the good thing, you know, because I often complain about growing up in LA and like the sort of shallow, vapid culture and all these things that I was exposed to, which are real. And the fact that I was doing drugs at way too young of an age because of LA and like the sort of scene, whatever. But at the same time, I've been in therapy since I was like 13, and I don't mean in a bad way, like in a good way. Like I always enjoyed it, and
so
like,
you always knew that therapy even existed.
Oh yeah, and just the you know what I mean, like the compassionate way of looking at mental health stuff, and the way of looking at it, where it's like even saying mental health, it's like, you know, it suddenly certain people can divorce themselves from it and be like, well, I don't have mental health problems. But it's like we all do.
That's one right there.
Yeah, exactly. So but trying to explain that to people, you know.
Yeah, when people think mental health, they think like straight jackets and like people licking the walls and having conspiracy theories.
And that's the funniest thing, because like I'm way closer to that than my wife, but you know, like her thing has been the thing that's been the hardest part. It's like she almost got unlucky in the sense that I had like one manic-ish episode during our relationship. It was terrible. I hated it. It was literally just because I let myself smoke pot. 3 months later.
Did you stop taking your meds too?
No, I took my meds, and that's why I didn't go full on.
Gotcha. So it was
still terrible for me, and it ruined a lot. You know, I think it did some stuff in terms of triggering her and this whole thing. Not that I wouldn't have necessarily been something else, but I don't know. The fact that I take some responsibility that in this case, it certainly did not help. I'm not saying it was the cause, certainly did not help, was seeing me go through that. But it was also like 2 or 3 months versus her thing, which because this is the first time in her life she's ever had to deal with it. It's kind of like when I first found out I was bipolar, I was like 19, and it lasted till I was like 22 or 23 till I really started to get into takes a few years for anyone to get into the rhythm of like taking care of yourself the right way.
Yeah.
So she, you know, unfortunately this happened right at, you know, after 10 years of happy, blissful marriage, you know, so it's like people were way more caught off guard. She, in her head, I think feels more caught off guard by like, oh God, I must have just dropped the ball.
And really with alcoholism, it's really an allergy. So the allergy component is like, it's less psycho than drugs. You know, normally with drugs, it takes like a really deep depression. It's like really dark. But with alcoholism, it could almost be like a pure allergy where just like you could go your whole life never, you know, have allergic reaction to almonds, and then now you're fucking breaking out every time you eat almonds or whatever. It's the same concept where you have this physical allergy to alcohol now, where when you drink, you no longer have the ability to put it down or say when you're going to stop.
Control yourself. And I mean, that was where, and I saw that tangibly. That's a great way of putting it. Like, that's why I'm saying it could happen to me. And I really am lucky that I think I came right up to it. And it's just like, maybe it was the fact that I had experienced stuff in my youth, that there was less of a shame. Who knows what it was, but that I stopped myself.
Well, the reality is that like when you deal with something and then go through it and then change your life to where now you have to maintenance it, you're in recovery.
Yeah, there you go. I love it.
So it's like, as long as you're like doing the things that you need to do to stay healthy, it's just like people who get cancer. They don't say my cancer is cured. They say I'm in remission.
I love that.
So as long as like, it's a good analogy, right?
Yeah,
but
no,
like,
it's
the
amazing.
same thing. She's doing the exact same thing, you know?
It's true. And I think the more she gets, but I will say it's like, if she was to sit here and have this conversation with you and like just to sit here and have that kind of normalizing and compassionate way of looking at it and just be like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. That's the opposite of sometimes I think.
And not just that, when you start to meet other people with the exact same illness, you start to feel like you're walking out of like this stormy rain cloud to like sunshine, because you're like, holy shit, I'm not a terrible person. I'm not a fucking bad wife. I'm not a bad mother.
Yes.
I have this issue going on. For me, like when I started to meet other addicts, it was life-changing. I couldn't believe that there was so many other people that did the same.
It's surreal. Yeah, to think that you can, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when you're just having like, you're like going through like a, you know, pre-pubescent or pubescent like high school loneliness, and then you kind of meet your crew and you're like, okay, there's other weirdos. Yeah. And so to me,
it happens with me in music. Well, like when I like read that like you had bipolar like during like probably like around when I got clean, I was like, Max Bemis has bipolar. Fuck yeah. You know,
Awesome.
like it felt good to know
see how,
that
like,
other people have issues that you have. Yeah.
And it's like the fact that I think what it comes to is like probably the first step to that was you realizing whatever your challenge was, and then realizing that it's not bad, and then being like, wait, okay, not only can I feel comfortable with other people who are addicts, by the way, like even that, just like bipolar, we're all on some spectrum, how I see it. You know what I mean? I do think there's a point where it becomes like you got to get help.
Yeah.
But I still see it as like anyone could. It's like mixture of like social and genetics, and it could be pushed. It could be a lot of social. You know what I mean? Like if someone grows up in a really abusive environment but has way little, they can still turn out to be just as addicted as someone else. So like someone like me, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what if like God forbid a whole bunch of shit happened to me? I'd be the first one. You know, who knows?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like I had a pretty good childhood, considering that I, got addicted to drugs at a young age. But like, imagine if I had a really fucked up childhood, it would be 1,000 times worse. And which is why it's important not to judge people, because you don't really know what you would do if you were given their childhood. You know?
Exactly. And that's how I can only hope that, because I see tons of hope, and Sherri's doing amazing. Really, that's where it comes from. Is like the more she, like, when we talk, and she doesn't assume that like I hate her. You know what I mean? Because like I'm sure that for many people, and anyone who's watching it who is in her position, it's like there's a feeling that if you're with someone or even with your friends, or that they're going to be like, fuck. Like I know what that feeling is too, because like
or just that feeling of like someone looking at you to see if you're.
Yeah, I mean, that's uncomfortable.
It's the worst.
It's embarrassing to know the things you did. These are all things that I get from being manic. So for me, it was like I got out of the hospital for the first time, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I have to talk to all these people. Like, they saw me, like, run down the freeway. You know what I mean? Like, literally, like.
Did you really run down the freeway?
I didn't run, but I walked off from my parents' house to this girl I was dating's house. And walked the whole way there, which was like really across the whole thing of LA to Burbank. And everyone was driving around looking for me. And I was very classically crazy in the way of just like the things I would say, the things I would pull off, the things that I would it was just, they're funny stories. They're like very much so like, I find them funny. I like to joke about them. So once you get to that point and you can realize that that applies to anyone who just has a hard time. So I think it's like, I'm constantly, I think, want her, and I think she does see. But it's really more, as I said at the very beginning of this, like society makes it hard for us to look at each other and empathize. So like, why would she think? She's like, well, here's Max. Like, even though technically, he's known as a whatever, the drug dude and the crazy guy, he didn't end up doing this. It was me. So I must be a fucking piece of shit if this crazy guy was taking care of me for a few years. But it's so not true. It's like she took care of me in a billion other ways, and she did it all while suffering from this. You know what I mean? Yes, it was affected by it, but it never changed our love. So I
think my goal is to like really change the stigma of someone getting help to like someone who's 40 pounds overweight, who's like, hey, I want to go on a diet and I'm going to really try. And then let's say a few weeks later, they are eating pizza.
Exactly.
Do we like go, oh, you done fucked up now? You know what I mean? Like,
and that's society's problem. That's not their problem. Like you were saying, if there was more options, if that was built into, I mean, I've seen it affect, not her specifically, but with the bipolar stuff, I've seen that effect work where that's not, now thank God you've got stuff like Britney Spears coming out, and it's like actually possibly for all of us, it's like possibly a big thing where it can be just as valued as like racism, homophobia, which are intensely terrible, sexism, terrible. All those things are fucking terrible. And mental health bias is, to me, just as bad as any of them. And at the same time, it applies to everyone in all those groups, which makes it, to me, not more important, but as important and very pressing for right now. Because it's like, at least even Nazis know at this point that they're like fucked. Like they're like, we fucking hate Jews. We don't care that everyone disagrees with us and thinks we're terrible people. It used to be like, here's a great idea. Let's kill all the Jews. And they're like, I don't know. That might be bad. Now we know that's fucked up.
Of course.
We know it's fucked up to like hate gay people. We know it's fucked up to tell women they're less than men. But some guys will still do it, and they'll still be like, I don't care what people say. But still, it's not, you can be like, that guy's he's fucking crazy. No one in the room is going to go like, hey man, watch out.
Hey, you shouldn't say that.
Yeah, hey. And I'm not saying it should be, first of all, like I don't mind when my friends make like Jewish jokes if it's a certain way, but it comes from a compassionate, funny place.
Of course.
It's like, we've definitely gone through stuff lately where I've seen mental health bias come up in ways that actually threatened my family. They threatened my fucking ability to do work, and not because I wasn't doing work, but it was literally like, and I saw it when I was going through my own stuff, because like I said, at first it was all very enabled because it went with the whole image of my bipolar guy thing. Yeah. When I went outside of that place to try different things and go, this place is actually really stifling, and it can be a really dangerous mental health place, like being on tour all the time and rock bit. I'm like, I'm having kids. Let me go a little bit, see what the real world is like. And then it was like there's a lot of people who just didn't understand people who ostensibly are trying to be social justice-y or whatever, and that's their whole platform. And yet when it comes to someone having an issue like this, they will be terrible, they will trigger, they will be rude, they will be mean, they will fire someone. They don't care.
For sure.
And so like I saw that happen. I'm like, you know what? That's whatever. I could probably have predicted that. But when it came down to like this being Sherri's thing, and everyone loves her so much for good reason. She's fucking awesome. And like, so in her family and like her friends, so many people were amazing, by the way. This isn't to say this was like a generalized thing. Like a lot of people really supported us and showed up.
That's awesome.
And the people who didn't, I don't hate them either. Like, it's just
they just don't know.
They just don't know that particular thing, I guess. It's like that might be their Achilles heel is having a sensitivity about that particular issue where it makes them feel better. And I did see that,
anything you do in life, it's like you always gonna have, like, I just saw like this thing where like Shaq bought all these toys and stuff for these inner city, like spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for like these toys or whatever, and there was people in the comments like, oh, he should have bought books.
Exactly.
It's just like you just always have somebody that's throwing that stone.
And it's really true. Like, I kind of had to condition. That is so true. And because of message boards and stuff, so much of my shit,
it's crazy.
That was my shame. Like was in the public profile, people being like, that fucking piece of shit, he's just a crazy douchebag. Whatever. And I would have to read that. And I'm like, I'm not, but like, this is going to happen. Fuck the haters.
Yeah. It's hard. It's like in court where they're like, please dismiss anything that was said. Like, you really can't.
Exactly. There's still going to be an asshole jury member there. And they can actually fucking send you to jail. That's what I've seen is like people, frankly, literally trying to question our abilities as parents just because.
Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't even thought about that. That's wild.
And not even her. Like, just people were searching for someone to blame.
Yeah.
And so crazy guy, husband.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is the most small percentage of people. But I will say it's my first encounter. You would think that me, who's kind of known for bipolar.
I've been through so much other shit,
Well, that I would have encountered a lot of shitty people who tried to make me feel bad about my mental health. There was like an ex-girlfriend who was particularly terrible. Whatever, that's a whole other podcast. But like beyond her, I've had so much love and support. And just people like you saying that like, I helped you. Like that, I've never run up against it until it was someone else, which is the weirdest thing. And it was addiction, because it was really the problem was people having a problem with addiction. Because when I came into like certain environments, people are like, oh, it's okay. Like, no, we know that this is a thing people are learning about. Like, in a way, like, I think that addiction might have a way worse stigma. And
for sure.
And then it feeds back into, oh, you must be crazy because you did this substance, or because you did that. That makes you crazier than this person. And no, we're going to judge that that's worse. It becomes this political, bizarre thing when it's just like, are we not all like trying to help each other here? I just could see it's really cool. What you do is so beautiful.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
This, even just the podcast, even if you were just doing the podcast, let alone what you do for a living. And I'm jealous because it's like, that's what I'm literally I'm trying to gear my work to be, some of my work in particular, to be tailored towards that message.
That's
in
awesome.
particular of hope and about removing the shame stigma and educating people on literally the fact that we're all crazy and we're all have the propensity to do all these things. And it isn't a division between, you can't judge someone who has some particular manifestation of this same thing, which I think is feeling like the world isn't fair and feeling like it's really fucking hard to be alive, and it gets really depressing sometimes, or it's really awesome and then you're like, oh, it was so awesome yesterday, why is it so awesome? So we all have these feelings, and it's just kind of luck as to whether you
how far on the spectrum it is.
Yeah, and your situation, because it's like
your environment and your childhood, whatever. Like no one chooses what country you're born in, or how much money you got, or how much your parents loved you, or if you fucking had a bully down the street that fucking caused trauma. One of my favorite things that I read when I got clean was Eckhart Tolle has a book, and
wait a second, I might
it's
have
The Power of Now.
Okay, yeah, I read some of it.
Okay, at the end of the, I think in the beginning of the book, so I think he's from Canada, and he was, had a regular life. I think it was like working like corporate America, or whatever. He's on a bus, and there's this crazy lady who gets on the bus, and she's talking to herself the whole time, and he's like, man, I hope I'm never like that. He keeps looking at her like, I hope that never fucking happens to me. And he's just staring at her like, wow, this lady is out of her fucking mind. I hope that never ends up to be like me. And he's just thinking about this. He gets off the bus, and he's washing his hands, and he says, I hope I never end up like that lady. And he says it out loud. He's like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that, like, this lady's here talking to herself out loud, but we're just talking to ourselves, inside.
But you having that knowledge is something that I think it's kind of equivalent to, like, I've met people who are accidentally racist, and then I've met people who, like, kind of choose to be because they're really kind of
racist.
dark. Yeah, blatant and, like, dark, where they act, but then you meet, so if you literally just went to, like, some place where they didn't know any better, and they're just like, yeah, Jews are terrible. Like, honestly, if you lived in Germany, if you were a 4-year-old kid during the Holocaust, you would just be like, what are Jews, mommy? And they're like, they're those rats that we're killing off. Sorry. But I'm just saying, it's like, there's nothing, that to me is something that needs to be corrected and is the worst thing about the world, but I can't hold that kid responsible.
Yeah.
So
no, it really goes with like each generation and their parent. And like sometimes people say things that are just so crazy, like, oh, our generations are getting worse and worse and worse.
Exactly.
But it's like not that long ago, women couldn't even vote.
Exactly.
It's like not that long ago, we had people drinking to separate water fountains. Like within one lifetime.
Exactly. So the invention of like the fucking computer. It's like the potential for progress.
People are like, oh, social media is the worst thing to happen. All these millennials are insane.
Well, to me, that's what, like, I think now it's like, well, okay, so this is almost like post something in a way, but it's like you have people now getting annoyed with the word woke and woke culture because they're like, that's turning into like a pissing contest, and people are really shitty towards each other.
Cancel culture.
That stuff. But then, so I did get annoyed by that a while ago, and then I kind of went past it. I'm like, at least it's moving the dial away from pure racism and hate and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, well, if someone's going to get mad about something, this is the time to do that. This is the time to do that. But then it became... There is now, I think, it's like the wokeness in a way is just a day, but how in tune you are with reality at this point. You don't have to necessarily, you could be some racist 4-year-old kid in Germany and maybe see something where you're just like, oh my God, the world is crazy, maybe. And then you start to be more compassionate to people. It's something that's not of now. It's just something, whether you see enough, whether it's trauma. I don't know if it's for other people trauma. For me, it was seeing certain trauma and then beautiful things. It's just something clicked at some point in my life, and it was very visceral. And then just since then, it's been this quest to be more empathetic, to be more...
Well, the thing that happens is that when you start to like correct those injustices, you almost start to, if you go too far, you start to become the same people that you're mad about. It's like,
if that's your mindset.
Fuck everybody. And then you're like, especially racist people, they should all fucking die. Now you're hating people. And I'm not saying like, racism is okay, but like everybody grew up in a household with some relative who was like more racist than the rest of the family or whatever.
It's all about whether they had the capability, like in the past 5 years, to maybe start realizing these things quicker if you sat them down and explained it.
Yeah, and it's like maybe we should have a conversation with grandpa.
Exactly.
Or maybe we should not entertain him or whatever. But the reality is like these people are now owning businesses and whatever. And that's when it really starts to affect like society as a whole, is when these people are choosing who to rent to, who to loan to or whatever. So that's when like the real issues start, because if someone flicks you off on the highway, that's not really going to change the world. When it starts to become like systematic is when it starts to create real social injustices.
And that's where I'm seeing like I was horrendously angry about everything that was going on, you know, in turn. But then I couldn't help but notice it when it came to classism, when it came to homophobia, transphobia. And then like the last thing to hit me was like, oh God, this exists for people who are known as mentally ill, or addicts. And it's like because it's just as dumb as being mad at someone for the color of their skin or where they were born, because everyone has a skin color. Everyone was born somewhere. There's actually no way to value people based on that.
And the reality is that when you go to Africa, there are people that are racist against people that are born in different tribes, that they kill each other, and real genocide goes on. You know what I mean? So we tend to think racism like as it is in America, but really it goes on in other countries at like such a high level that like till like today genocide like, you know, it's not something we're reading around in the book. Like today genocide goes on, you know. Like, how the fuck is North Korea still a place, you know?
Exactly.
So
those are the things that, like, if you start thinking about them and they make you feel like almost more sad and like, God, I want to help people. As opposed to, this makes me angry and I want to now
kill those people.
Exactly.
You're like now becoming the same thing that you don't like.
And I basically, for the first time, I never thought that could rear itself in this situation until recently. And that's because it seems so daft. That's a dumb word, but it's the only thing I could say is because you turn on VH1 Behind the Music, everyone is just like, and then things got dark. We brought out the Coke and things got dark. And it's like, guys, like, is anyone shocked? You know what I mean? Like, is this actually still a thing to people? Like, same with mental illness, you know, like how many times have we heard this, you know, like Forrest Gump comes out and it's like, oh, look at that cute, crazy guy or whatever. He's got mental problems, but he's the hero. And everyone's like, woo, Forrest.
Exactly.
And like, so we've had this realization.
But at the same time, like, no one really talked about like what he was.
Yeah, no one cared.
It was just like, whatever.
There was like a judgment too. You know, it was like, but when I saw it, and I'm sure when you saw it, it was like, oh, okay, like I relate to this. I'm sure maybe for some people they were like, oh, that's cute. You know what I mean? So I feel like now it would be wonderful if the world started to realize that this is a completely, like you said, with racism, it's going on right now. It may go on entirely until certain things, like I've seen this on the micro in our family, and I'm realizing it's like, if we keep perpetuating certain things, whether that even be just drinking, you know what I mean? It can be as simple as cutting that out of your life or cutting drugs out of your life.
Being like, hey, we have someone that struggles with drinking right now. Let's not drink on Saturday night when everyone comes over.
Yes.
Instead of just being like, let's not talk about that shit if she doesn't come, whatever. Exactly.
Talking
you know?
about it.
And being supportive and whatever.
All those little things like are going to prevent literal just like social meltdown, even outside of us. Like, it's just that we're pretty honest about it. And so we tend to like talk about it. And so people will be like, oh shit, like, you know, and then you'll look over and you're seeing it kind of go on with them too. And it's like, God, guys, we're all in the same boat here. Like, we're all feeling this same, especially with COVID, you know what I mean? It's like, whatever. But at the same time, people are like, yeah, everyone's going crazy because of COVID and everyone's really anxious and depressed. I'm like, where were you before? Everyone was, I'm not talking about me. Yeah, I'm really anxious.
Yeah, this is actually just shining a light on it.
Yeah, it was.
People were just going to work and forgetting about it for 8 hours a day.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's not like all this mental illness came up because of COVID. It's that now people are having to go home and look in the mirror.
Totally.
And spend more time at home and then really evaluate their life.
Yes.
And drink more. Because it's like, if you drink a little bit before the pandemic, you're drinking a lot after the pandemic.
And that was where, like, frankly, for us, it became clear, like, yes, it was the turning point for, like, it was that sort of social environmental thing where it didn't have to necessarily be COVID, because for us, it sort of started to shift, I guess, a year before COVID. And it was funny because, not funny, but I guess it is darkly funny, because then it did shift in society and we're like, yeah, we've been seeing this in the past. It's because we're so empathetic and we're so like kind of wet noodles that we're just like soaking up the energy of everything that was going on in the world, and it trickled down to us. But everyone is receiving these same things. Once you start opening up about it, that's what really sucks. I will speak, I guess, to that, because it's like, for me, it does come in the form of having a public platform, but then I'm sure you experience this too. It's like just doing what you do, like there's more scrutiny as to how you handle these things, as opposed to like, which I guess is good, but in a way it's also not good, because just because you're saying, I want to help people who are suffering, everyone should be doing that, frankly. You know, it's like, so I feel like there's issues that have to do with how we handle things, and those are valid. Like, you can't not listen to criticism. You can't not listen to other people's input. If someone's concerned for you and they're like, hey, this is a deal, you know, that's how people like get help. But at the same time, the projection and like the like, essentially society, and this is kind of sounds like a raving homeless guy in the street, but whatever, I'm not far off. It's like, why would the world want people to speak out against that it's dysfunctional? You know what I mean? Like, it's in everyone's best interest, even the people, even me, maybe subconsciously, I don't know, I can't think of how, because I'm literally all the time like this, trying to like not hurt people. But still, it's like, we can't help it, because every day that we exist in this society, that there are haves and have-nots, that there are people, like the way I talk about it, it's a very intense way to look at it, and I hope this isn't too triggering for people. For me, it can be, is like, I'm like, somewhere right now, I'm like, God, life is fucked. And Sherri's like, or my mom or something will be like, but it's not. Like, look at your beautiful life. I'm like, yes, but I could have been born yesterday, like a baby in the middle of the Sudan, and then just gotten shot, and that would have been the end of my life. And I wouldn't, that kid is no different than me. And it was just pure dumb luck, and the fact that war exists, and the fact that the world is fucked up.
I thought about this as a young child, and that's how I stopped believing in God. I had like this whole epiphany, I think like in second grade, where I was like, there's people starving in Africa?
Holocaust for me.
I hate all this. Oh, really?
Yeah, because I had grandparents.
So your grandparents.
So that was when I started thinking, I'm like, fuck, like this whole world is fucked up. And like, we have to, we don't want everyone to just give up and drop dead. And we have to be smart about how we're going to change it. And like, that's why people are doing, hopefully a lot of people are doing positive things to do it. But
I think what I've learned as an adult is that you can't have good without bad. You can't have light without darkness. When you become aware of it, you can either choose to not do anything, or you could choose to
go for the light.
Do a little bit, and then you become like a perfectionist, where then you feel like what you do doesn't really make a difference. But as long as you can make like a little difference on a daily basis, you can die happy.
Well, yeah, and that's spirituality too, to some degree. You know, that's realizing no one's God. You know, and I think that is almost the risk. And for me, that was my thing. Like, was when I would be manic, is like, I'd start putting myself in positions where I'm like, okay, well, someone's got to do what Jesus did. I got to go out there and start talking about this and run down the freeway, you know, and I don't have to. You know, I think that's the Christian way of looking at it. But if you look at it any other way, it's that there's always a higher power, you know, and like, it's like you said, you just have to try. You just have to try, and it's okay, and you shouldn't judge yourself for not being able to do everything.
Of course.
But we all kind of do, and it's just
you gotta celebrate the small victories.
And now that's like all I celebrate. Like, my favorite things are like, oh, I just made my daughter happy. Fuck yeah, you know. And I think, you know, for someone who it's that's what I see in Sherri. It's like, her values are so good, and she's such a good person, but then everything around her it's been forced on her since a pretty young age to question those really empathetic impulses. And so I think that is the risk that everyone is just not. It's like the people who care the most are being pushed into situations to hurt themselves, and that includes me. Like, it isn't just her, because it's that particular issue with her. It's anything, and you really do have to settle for, okay, well, that's still going to probably happen a little bit, but I'm going to minimize the losses, or I'm going to be like, if this is some kind of a war for the like right, in the end, you know, like God knows where we're going, but hopefully we are on the right side of it. You don't want to start falling off and not be able to like help your kids become better people, or help people make the future a better place, because you're feeling it so hard. You know what I mean? Like, the empathizing can even be a hindrance.
Of course,
but there's an under empathy where you're just like, God, sometimes you have to kind of Jedi out and you know, tune everything out. And for me, that's what I've seen, you know, with her as being a thing. With me, of course, it was a thing, and to the point where I have to take meds for it. You know, like, I'm so far down that path that I cannot without meds.
How long have you been taking the meds for?
Oh, fuck, almost 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah, and like
never
a lot of so a lot of times people have this idea of like, even family members will say things like, well, you could take them now, and then when you get better, you could just stop taking them. Or like, they don't understand that some people need to be on meds for their entire life. And they're going to be because the worst thing about meds is their side effects. People try different things or whatever. And I always tell people, like, the three things I see people relapse on is because recovery's not a priority. They're chasing money, property, prestige. Something becomes too important, or love and relationships. And then the last thing is always med compliance. That if you're supposed to be on meds, take your meds. Because a lot of times,
such a thing.
you know, that's just like, that's all they did wrong. They did everything else right. They had a sponsor, they went to meetings, had a support network.
Utterly.
But then if you didn't take your meds, and then imagine kids who are getting clean and...
Because this whole part is totally without a doctor. You're going and like getting high or whatever. It's like
exactly.
that. Yeah, they're starting to get a little more medical about it, but not to the point. Well, clearly not, because like, you know, it's really hard for me with that industry, because it's like, I want to support it for the people who do, I guess, use it medicinally, and it's totally perfect for them. But I can't imagine that like a kid like me couldn't have gotten a whole fucking mega prescription to like the dankest LA weed,
of course,
because I was kind of depressed. You know, and that's what I'm seeing. So it's like,
and it's just like anything that's legal, like beer, alcohol, whatever.
And I have issues with that too. Especially now. It's like,
so I tell people, like when people ask me about like, how do I feel about marijuana? I don't hate marijuana. I think if you want to smoke marijuana, go smoke marijuana.
Yes.
But I know that for most people who have substance abuse problems, another substance doesn't really solve that issue.
Anyone who, I'll go so far as to say, anyone who has a substance abuse problem, anything that's particularly mind altering and not really judiciously watched over by a doctor. I mean, that's why, you know, the stuff that I'm on, you know, they put me in the fucking hospital and monitored me for weeks and weeks to be like, is he cool on that? Because they know they can't fuck around. They're gonna get in trouble. But for people's interest to be able to go, take, you know, they're going to make tons of money doing that. So same with alcohol, cigarettes, you know, it's like, you know, I think everything you're saying is awesome, especially about relapsing, because it's like making it a priority is huge. I think, but then I think there's an intimidation thing, for me at least there was, where I'm like, okay, well I'm not gonna be able to have fun now. And like, I'm gonna like, oh, I have to take these pills every day. Do I not get to be myself? You know, like, and then it started to be, and
so you went to rehab.
I went to the hospital.
Okay.
Hardcore. That was what I did the most. That to me was the most impactful and positive change. I went to similar to what you do, like a dual diagnosis place. Okay. And if anything, like, I think I probably now would have a better time doing it, because I was 19. I was maybe 20 or 21 when I did that one. The hospitals, it's so rigorous in a way that they're just like, go to your room, blah, blah, blah. But if you go to, it's almost like I was one of those people who goes to rehab. It's not that I wasn't willing. I was totally willing, but I didn't know what I was asking for. And if I had, I would have gotten annoyed after a couple of days and gone, I don't really need to do NA. I should probably be in this codependence group and be there and really focused on that. And I should be talking a lot about my pills and what's going, like, I would be more tuned in as to like, it's not like a generalized he's crazy problem. Like, let's throw him in this place because he's generally not doing good. Somehow drugs are involved. And blah, blah, blah. Because I was like, this doesn't, like, I'm starting to wake up to the fact that I'm fucked up and I need help. But like, this particular thing doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem right. And I just want to like, and that's what I've seen that's kind of cool, like going through some of this process of like Sherri seeking help is places like it's like, it seems like people are way more open about working with people and figuring out a more personalized sort of like.
Absolutely.
And in life.
And that's the difference between going to like a private facility and like a county-run facility. I went to a county-run facility, and like the kids that were there for, you know, taking too much acid and they got stuck in a trip were, you know, right there with me that had like a severe drug problem, you know?
Yeah, and honestly, like, I'm sure, like, there's something to it, you know what I mean? But like, if you don't have to go through that, don't, you know what I mean? Like, if you have the luxury of having a support group.
Of course.
Like, but for me, it was suitably jarring, you know what I mean? I was like, oh fuck, this is pretty gnarly. Like, there is a straight up crackhead right there, prostitute. I'm like, that's cool. It could have been me. Being around them did that same effect.
Sometimes going to jail or these county run programs are a real eye awakening thing.
For the reason you were saying earlier, though, where it's like you meet people like you and you stop thinking of it as you and them, and you start seeing the commonalities.
Or you see someone who's 10 years older than you and you're like, damn, that could be me in 10 years.
Yes, exactly. You know? And there was a lot of that. And it was just like, what am I doing? How did I get here? Just a break. And so when I did go to the dual diagnosis place, it was also similar to that. There was a break. I also was in a really unhealthy relationship at the time, and like we were fighting on the phone while I was there. All the things that you were saying.
Very rarely is someone in a healthy relationship on
there. You go.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So. And it was like, I could not really just ask for what I needed. I was also shy. You know, I really like, now I'd be like, all right. Like there's been times during this where I'm like, I wish I needed to go. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
It sucks. Like I've been on the trauma has been so intense. Oh my God. You know, but I do have a therapist.
Cool.
I am kind of in a good place. I'm definitely not like using myself. So fortunately or unfortunately, I'm able to be solid and be the dad and the you know, the raw. There's definitely times where you want to be the weak one. You know, you want to be like, oh fuck, I just put me in the hospital. Like, seriously, I'll wake up in 2 months and they'll tell me what to do with my life. But unfortunately, that's like the opposite place for her, because for her, what I'm seeing in her, and I guess this will speak to some people, whatever that label is, whether you're bipolar or you're an addict or whatever it is, it's like there are some people who can't even give themselves the grace or the sort of
the chance,
Well, like the compassion. She's slowly learning to, but that is like her Achilles heel. For me, it's like that really isn't it. You know what I mean? Like it's never really so much like, I think it comes down to a similar amount of issues with myself, but it's more so like, I feel like I deserve a chance. I totally think I deserve a chance. But there are times where I think I'm so bad of a person that it's just not going to happen. But I don't think that there's no options out there. You know, she tends to be the like kind of person who's just like, I'm fucked. You know, and it's like, so it's a learning process to go, you're not fucked. Like there's always something you could do. And for me, it's going, no. Like you're not any more particularly screwed in life than anyone else.
For me, I'd go to meetings and be like, I'm so fucked. I'm never going to get clean. Then I would go to a meeting and hear someone's story who was 10 times worse than me.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I'm not fucked. Look at this guy. He fucking came out of like the worst scenario ever. But then on the drive home, I'd be like, I'm fucked. You know,
exactly.
So it would be like,
but that's amazing that that's
thing.
how you took it though. Because see, that's to me the perfect effect of that program on someone is where you go in and it gives you hope and you're like the fact that that proved you were ready to be there and like that's what you knew you had to take out of it and you're in the right place for it because like again, if you're just willing to take from other people, it gets better and then it's going to get shitty for them too sometimes and they're going to feel shitty and I'm going to be the one inspiring them and that's to me that kind of just give and take and empathy is everything.
It's just like the gym, you know?
Yes.
There are people that you're working out with and then you surprise them and then they have a kid and they're not really in the gym and then whatever. And then the same thing. Let me ask you something before we wrap up. How did you start Say Anything?
First of all, it was just like I wrote a few, so it was kind of like every kid who's 12 years old. It was like I had just started writing, or 13, whatever. Anyone who picks up a guitar and starts learning like Green Day songs. Yeah. And they're like, this is cool. Let's write some like punk songs. And I think I wrote a few acoustic songs. Then I took them to Kobe, who's the drummer, original drummer of Say Anything, all the way up for most of the band.
Wow, you guys grew up together like that?
Oh yeah, 14, 13 was when we started at Jew Camp.
Wow.
Playing NoFX and Green Day songs. And so we started doing it, but it was just like a kid band. Like we weren't serious about it. We were like, we never even played a show. We did nothing.
Did you have a name?
It was Say Anything. It became Say Anything.
Wow, it started at Say Anything?
First it was, I wasn't okay with the name. And then I was like, Say Anything? We're like, okay, we'll be Say Anything. Nothing came of it. And then so we were just kind of kids in school. And then I sent a random email to, I don't know if you remember this label, Drive Through Records. It had like Newfound Glory and stuff. But they started out as like a ska punk label. And they were sort of transitioning.
And this was in LA?
This was in LA, but keep in mind, I was like 14. I had never played a show even by myself. All I'd ever done is play acoustic guitar for my friends at camp. Yeah. And just like a lark, I sent them an email and I'm like, hey, I want to use your guys' song for a school film project I'm doing. Oh, also I play songs. Like if you guys ever want to hear it, like literally the most random kid in the world. They're like, sure, why not? Come down, whatever. Like, because that's how things were at that point in the scene. It was like you just like hang out with the kid outside of a show, whatever. It wasn't like now where it's like, oh God, watch out. So I came there and I played him a couple songs and they're like, we will sign you right now.
Wow.
Yeah. And
how old were you?
I was 14. And
Get
they
out
were
of
like,
here.
yeah. And it was funny actually because, and I'm sure you'll understand being of this generation where it's like, their idea for me was to be this acoustic guy or kid that would play kind of punky pop punk songs, and they would put me next to the punk bands, and I'd be playing acoustic, and it'd be really weird because who's this acoustic guy?
This kid,
right? And so and it would be like kind of a novelty. And they really did believe in me, and they thought I was like, they said a lot of nice stuff about me. But then I kind of pissed them off. We got into a fight. I didn't sign to them. And then they immediately signed Dashboard. So he was like, he became their guy that was acoustic. And then later, me and Chris became friends. And it was so weird that he took us on our first tour like 10 years later. So, but then I just kind of went back to being a high school kid, and it went away for a very long time. And, you know, so it really did start out in terms of it being a career with this random email. Otherwise, I would have been a director or would have tried to be, who knows what I would have been. But I didn't think that I was a guy in a band until that. And then I was like, holy shit, I could be a good guy in a band. I was like, even today, like, I don't think of myself that way necessarily. I'll see people who I admire who are in bands, and I think of them as kind of like otherworldly creatures, like David Bowie or something, and you're like, that guy's a fucking guy in a band. Me, it's like kind of, I mean, I'm sure even just sitting with me, it's kind of like, I'm not the most obvious choice to be that guy. And I think that is why people like our band. But at the same time, it's surreal to be in that place. Like, there also a lack of self-esteem.
Do you see yourself as like a songwriter more than like a...
Oh yeah, especially because like what I've done a lot over the past few years is write comics.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah.
it was always writing for me. I wanted to write movies, write books. My mom is a writer, and my dad is an artist. So I was either drawing comics. The first thing I wanted to do essentially was make comics, and I made comics in class, and then now I started working for Marvel.
That's so cool.
It was great. It was like I got to live both my dreams essentially, and I'm still doing both.
When did Say Anything start to take off?
It was probably 2004. It was cool because it was like, unfortunately, like I said, I think about everything ahead of time. So this sounds like I actually don't care, but it sounds like I had this plan to sell out. And if that is a thing, then I did. Because like we signed to a smaller indie label around the time that and most of the labels were starting to sell off bands to major labels. And I'm like, I think we could be on a major label. I'm like, I want to put out one record on an indie label and then blow up.
And then just blow up.
Right. And so
were you thinking about money at the time, or were you just thinking about putting out music?
It was getting to live out. It wasn't
Childhood
the glory
dreams.
of it. It was about it's a mixture of like hanging out with the people we admired. So like getting to meet these bands that you know what I mean?
That's
like,
so funny to think about.
Of course, like getting to meet, because like playing in front
Who
of a
were
band.
like the bands that you
Saves
like?
a Day, Jimmy Eat World, Weezer.
Wow.
You know, so it was like, and over time we've pretty much got to do that with all those bands, and to the point where some of them have opened up for us, and it is surreal. And so that's when I really always looked at it, that the things I did want to accomplish when it started to become a serious thing were like making an impact into people's lives and helping people feel better, and maybe making some dent in the things we've been talking about today. Like, those are the things that have driven me my whole fucking life. And I've over time been able to define them better based on experience. But like, those are the things that bothered me, like we were saying, when you're in second grade and you're like, fuck, the world is fucked. So I was like, I can go on stage and, you know, in 3-minute bursts, attack that viscerally. You know what I mean? It's like being at war. I'm sure there's stuff you do in your job where you're like, just by doing this, I'm helping someone. Just by doing this, I'm doing something positive and productive. And so for me, it's like I play a song, it reaches someone because I knew it did it for me. Even today, we were talking about hip hop. Like, I bet it's surreal for like Jay-Z, who's like probably my favorite rapper, that, you know, I know that for a fact that's what he's trying to do also, is reach the people that he was, you know what I mean? Or reach someone who's
or reach the
similar.
people that are deemed unreachable.
Yes, because he knows he felt that way too. So, but then to see it actually happen, you sometimes go, fuck, it's really crazy. And you have to have that humility.
You listen to any like modern day rappers?
Oh yeah.
Like new ones?
Yeah, like Keem. I like Baby Keem.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah.
Baby Keem's new album was insane.
It is really insane. I mean, Kendrick, I think, is probably the best rapper alive. I think Nicki Minaj is actually really underrated in terms of like skill.
Okay.
But like everything, like all I do is like, because of this production thing we're doing, like, and because it's my taste, I will just sit there on iTunes and when like a new hip hop album comes out,
yeah, you
like,
just check
see
it
if
out.
it's cool, and if it's like touted.
That's so cool because I always like meet people that are like our age that just stop listening to new music. I'm like, dude, you don't listen to like...
You just have to find the one that speaks to you that maybe doesn't have the same things that annoyed you. You know what I mean? If you grew up listening to too much hip hop, then you see a lot of those guys, these rappers that like, then they discover weird albums from the 70s and suddenly they're incorporating Kanye. Like he got into weird, bizarre music and he puts that into his shit and then it starts to become more interesting and cool. So I feel like...
Yeah, I really love Juice WRLD, and I was like trying to tell someone about Juice WRLD, and they were like, who's Juice WRLD? I was like, he's like one of like the biggest artists of a generation, and they were like, no way.
That
like,
whole thing,
it's crazy.
Like, and if it makes you feel weird at first too, that's what I've noticed with like, especially, but with any kind of music, but with hip hop, it's like, you know, like at first you'll be like, oh, this so isn't Tupac. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, this is so far. I feel like an old person listening to this. You know what I mean? Just like anything particular, like
what do they call it? Drill music?
Drill, yeah, exactly. So everything is like that almost. Like so much of it is drill now. And it's like at first I was like, oh God, it's all the same. And then you start to listen, you
get into it.
Yeah, you just have to I think sometimes you have to consciously, kind of like everything we were talking about, not to be like my mom where I put it all together always, but it's like if you take a second to go, wait, but why is this so popular? Sometimes you're gonna go because the world sucks, you know, and then you're like, and this is shitty, and it's talking about that. But sometimes you're gonna go, oh wait, because there's this thing about it that I may not have thought about, but when I think about it from this perspective, actually mindfully, then you're like, wait, I now get it. This person is aware of what they're doing. What I once deemed as like, they didn't know what they were doing or they weren't rapping properly. I'm like, no, this person knows they're not rapping
And I
properly.
always tell people, like, you don't think your parents thought the same thing when Tupac came out? Like, you don't think your parents were, like, listening to Pink Floyd and then fucking Wu-Tang came out? Like, what the fuck is this shit, you know? So I was like...
Avoid that.
Lil Peep is good. Like you gotta... It's not gonna sound like Tupac. Mac Miller is not gonna sound like Wu-Tang
And then you just see 10 years later... He's like the Tupac to everyone now.
Of course.
Like, when it was like, when Mac Miller was around. But then when Mac Miller came out, everyone's like, fuck this guy.
If it sounded like Tupac, it would be trash.
Exactly.
It's so hard to invent some new shit. So it's like Lil Baby and Da Baby and like all these other new rappers. It's like
all the babies.
Yeah, and like when it first came out, I'm like, there can't be a Da Baby and a Lil Da Baby. Like,
Me too.
Like I was like, this is insane.
But think about
they're
that's how
very
everyone
different
felt
and
about
good.
like Lil Wayne.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
course,
Like everyone
Lil Wayne,
hated him when he first came out.
You're
like,
a Lil
who's
Wayne
this
fan?
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm gonna freak out. That's so
Of
cool.
course,
Wow,
yeah.
that's
And
so
Drake.
cool.
I mean, I love Drake.
Yeah, Drake's
like,
awesome.
to death. Like a lot of my friends like can't get down with Drake. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like
he's I mean, he's like the Tom Brady of rap. He's just undeniably killing it every single year. He just is like,
and he's a good dude from what I can tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's not like in too much drama. Like he's been killing it nonstop every single year.
And I think it's because of the karma. I think it's kind of like there are some people in hip hop and in rock who like just have good karma. And I'm definitely, I'm not saying I am one of those people, but it's definitely my main goal is like, you know, Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. Like everyone wants to see the Foo Fighters succeed because he's nice.
Yeah.
At least from what we can tell, there are some people who are so duplicitous that like they end up hearing they're terrible people, but it's pretty rare. Like, you know, Paul McCartney's a pretty chill guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty obvious.
Jay-Z, like whatever.
There you go. Yes. And like J. Cole, you know what I mean? Like that's a guy who like clearly, or like Chance the Rapper.
People that have like a message behind their music. They're not fucking caught up in domestic abuse charges every week, you know?
And there's a lot of, they're proud of themselves and there's like a confidence, but then also, because that's healthy, it teaches you to have confidence, but it's not overconfidence because they also recognize their flaws. Like, to me, that's like Jay-Z's whole thing. It's like, you know, so yeah.
I love Gucci because, you know, as an addict, it's like, dude, this guy was like, you'd see him in interviews make zero sense, out of his fucking mind. He kicked a girl out of his car because she wouldn't give him head. Like he killed 2 people, you know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh my God. Just that.
Crazy. Yeah. Went to jail multiple times, was never supposed to see the light of day, and then like turns his life around. He doesn't drink. He is in
awesome. I
sick
didn't
shape.
even know that.
Yeah,
That's
he doesn't.
amazing.
Yeah, he doesn't drink. He's in shape. You know, he watches his diet.
And now, like, there's a lot of those songs where, like, you know, it's cool seeing that progress of like, you know, lean. Just like now, there's like every song is like about how lean sucks, kind of, but they're still drinking it.
Yeah,
They're pissed about
now
it.
there's people like Russ who are like promoting like not doing drugs. But it's interesting because a lot of times you would think you would see someone get off drugs and like now their music's gonna suck.
Not at all.
And now you're seeing like this new trend where like
that was a thing.
Where people
I experienced that.
Yeah,
I experienced people saying that about me, and it was like,
wow.
And then it went away out of the narrative. Like it really did become a thing where I stopped dude, people were getting mad at me for not doing drugs and for being married.
Yeah.
Like that was when I got real mad at social media, you know, and I was like, what do you want from me? You were the same person who's like, yeah, man, you could do it. Yeah. And then once I did, they're like, no, but he's cool. It's like, I like him. I'm happy for him, but like his music.
Now he's
cool.
a family man. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, I think it's cool because like some of these, like, who is it that like is straight edge, had never done anything. It's one of those dudes that I'm trying to think of.
Like a rapper or like
the Odd Future guys, I know.
Yeah,
don't do
they don't drink or anything.
And like, but then it gets crazy when you hear about like dudes who were in gangs.
Or Andre 3000 doesn't drink for years.
That's amazing.
He's publicly been sober.
There's someone I'm trying to think of who was like a straight up Crip, but then didn't do anything like since he was a kid. Like never did
drugs,
but had killed. You know what I mean? Like had shots. That's also bad and needs help. But like I respected that. Like there were no drugs involved.
No drugs involved. Yeah.
Somehow I'm like.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah,
but,
sure, because like you got to keep your head on straight. You know, some people are like, I will be more effective at this if I am not drunk. You know,
exactly. So what was going on when? So I just heard you on a different podcast where you said, "Is a real boy." Is this supposed to be like Israel?
It isn't, but later it made so much sense. Same with the name of the band, Say Anything. Like it wasn't planned, but then like a lot of things I do are like weird idiot savant things. So like I think it was in there.
So this whole time I was like, wait, is this supposed to be Israel Boy?
It was just the Pinocchio thing.
Okay.
And then even the name of the band, Say Anything, like I just liked that movie, you know, because I related to the main character. And then it became this thing where suddenly we're the weird band that is brutally honest all the time. So it would like literally made sense. Just a lot of things like that are very trippy.
Yeah, what's different about like your lyrics and a lot of like lyrics at the time is like your lyrics were so intellectually smart.
Oh man, thank you.
You know,
so
it's
much.
like I remember just being like, man, this guy is smart. Like it wasn't just like I'm just gonna throw together like a good melody. It was like so good. You know,
well, thank
it was
you.
like
a lot of
you can tell you're a writer. You know,
are smart. It's just like. I think some of them devalue the audience and don't think that people. I mean, you have
it's
labels
like rap. You know, you have rappers that them dumbing down their music isn't that they're dumb. It's that it's bringing this rawness to the music.
If it's intentional, being understated. Yeah. But then there is a thing where labels will tell you. We had one of our songs, "Do Better," was like one of our bigger songs.
Yeah,
and we actually had our label at the time tell us that it was too smart. Like it was too smart to be a single. They actually released it as a single. It didn't do that well, and they're like, "We want you to do a new version where you just make the words less like." Whatever, intense.
Less talkative.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I actually started writing it, and I'm just like, I can't fucking do this. And I was like, no, and then we like got off the label.
What's that song where you're having anxiety about the intro?
Oh, Belt. There you go.
Belt.
Yes.
Is that real?
That was real.
Like you really, like you would really have anxiety about writing a song.
I had anxiety about recording. I had come up with the intro was going to be whatever the rebellion line.
Yeah,
and I knew what it was going to be, but then. I knew I had to record it, and I was like, it has to be really good if it's going to open the album, and I don't want to sound stupid, and I don't want it to sound pretentious. So it has
this song is an act of rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, it's going to be a whole thing. Can I do it as well as it needs to be done?
Oh my God.
And so I was sitting there in the car, and I started thinking about how dumb that was. I was just like, this kind of represents the whole album, and the comment of like, look at how hard I'm thinking about this thing that's supposed to be like a pure act. And that kind of reminded me of the themes of the album. So I brought a tape recorder into the car with my dad. And I was like talking to my dad. I'm like, we're gonna say something if I bring this up. That was just what me and my dad were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember thinking that, and it's like, because it reflects the music. It reflects the lyrics. You're just like, wow, this is so good that like this guy puts out this amazing music and all these amazing songs, and there's like 4 words he's struggling to say.
That's me.
And it's like, it's like overthinking.
That's everyone though.
You know it's like overthinking about overthinking. It's like, you do something and then you start thinking about it.
But then you achieve something in the end. You know what I mean? The album came together in the end. And even that weird intro became this sort of like famous thing and that we would play right before we would come out, and everyone's like, It's like, but it was just showing how inept I was at doing it.
How did you handle going from like playing in like your garage to like playing shows and like really getting a record deal? And
I liked it. I never like, I don't think that it did much to me, but mainly because I went through a lot of my sort of troubles very early on in that thing. It was like we signed to a major label, and our album had been out on that indie label for a little bit. And then I lost it. So actually, I lost it before we had finished making the album. Mm-hmm. So we had never even been on tour. And I went through that. Then I found out I was bipolar, having done every song but the last song Admit It on that album. Mm-hmm. And so I basically coming out of the hospital.
You didn't even know you were bipolar that whole time.
No, I thought I was just a stoner. I was just like, I'm a weirdo stoner guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, this is different. This, or at least people started to say it to me. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm just high, whatever. You're high too. And it was like, no, this isn't high, bro. I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. And then they didn't know what it was either, though. There's like kooky Max, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And people liked it. It was never like, again, it didn't manifest itself in violence. It never manifested in like anger. So it was just like, it's a weird thing how that can play into people being like, yeah, this is his thing. He's that weird guy who's always thinking about stuff. It's mm-hmm. like, you don't need drugs to fucking do that. You don't need unhealthiness to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's what thankfully people supported in me by saying, as soon as I got into like a weird altercation and they're like, okay, and I ended up in the hospital and it became get him help before mm-hmm. he like really goes out on the road.
That's cool. Because not now, but like I would say there are environments where managers and men give you more drugs and promote that stuff.
Dude,
and even then the artist might even be saying, I don't give a fuck, give me more drugs. Mm-hmm. But it's like when your kid says, I want to eat gummy worms for breakfast, you got to mm-hmm. be like, no, we're not eating gummy worms for breakfast.
And I will say, yes, 100%.
And you got to risk losing the artist because that's like, like an ethical, like in my job, we risk losing clients by mm-hmm. doing what's right by the client.
I had a manager do that. He was like, cool. I won't, unless he gets, and like, they're like, he was like, I don't think he should go back on tour yet. And mm-hmm. they're like, no, we got to get him out. We got to get him to do the thing. He's like, I can't because this is a risk. And then what if I'm the one who made him go and
overdose and die?
And he's still my friend and I admire him for it. But what I did see, it's crazy, bring things again full circle, is like now what I've seen is this bizarre, it's gotten so complicated because of the internet mm-hmm. and because of all the things we've discussed that, again, I've seen some of that. But now, because there is this sort of like guise of wokeness, mm-hmm. so it's like people know that it's going to be shady and they can't get away with being like here's heroin, go play the show. And that still goes on quite a bit. Yeah. Especially in like scenes.
Yeah, I just seen Lil Xan.
Yeah,
Lil Xan just came out saying that his manager used mm-hmm. to give him drugs. At the same time, he probably was requesting them, and people act like this is normal in the industry.
It happens
but
in
at the same
punk
time,
too, and emo. Yeah,
at the same 100%. Time, one, he's super young.
Yeah.
Two,
his name is Lil Xan.
Exactly. Two, if you're managing artists, you should have some type of ethical code. And if people are like, well, it's really his fault because he's the one eating them.
Fuck no.
Exactly.
That's like a so that
it'd be like me giving a client drugs.
It even goes beyond that.
I'm supposed to protect them.
Remember I was saying like the role modeling thing and mm-hmm. all that? Like, so it can go even outside of the blatant things, which are like not letting someone get help or giving them drugs when they shouldn't fucking obviously be given mm-hmm. drugs. It can go to personal things. It becomes mm-hmm. unless a manager or someone in a position of authority like that is really understands the gravity of what they're doing and how mm-hmm. it can affect. If they start looking at it just like, it's a job, that guy's just one of my clients.
What the fuck did R. Kelly's managers do? You don't think they were like gathering underage girls for R. Kelly? He's that
just
guy?
My client.
Yeah,
it's
whatever.
Like, no.
It's just like, no, dude, like what you're doing is fucked up and damaging and illegal. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that like the industry is going to be perfect and always going to get drugs, but you got to know that this might come out and you might be held accountable for your fucking actions. But even beyond that,
it's just like for the sake of what's right. It's like,
for sure.
I don't believe that. I think there are boundaries in mm-hmm. business, but at the same time, it's like, I don't in a way, because I feel like if it was my friend, how can you not become friends with someone you've been managing
working
for years?
With,
Yeah, like
how could you not care?
It becomes really convenient at times to be like, this isn't my thing.
This is just business.
I'm like, but then you were telling me to like go on the fucking road when I was like all fucked up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I've seen it manifest itself in ways that are even more complex and weird mm-hmm. that have more to do with a general, just the world being so confused and fucked up mm-hmm. than even just like people being given drugs or people being enabled or not enabled. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the not enabling in a way can come under this guise of control. Now mm-hmm. it can be like, we got to make sure that person's okay. So don't make this decision, but subtly steering them towards another thing that mm-hmm. benefits them. Like actually taking advantage of it.
In my industry, we call it client steering.
I bet it's all the time.
It's client steering. It's like, we didn't force them to go here, but we made it a way where this is more attractive than this option.
Thank God you guys even have that term, though, because it's like...
Well, this is only in the medical field. Because,
right, but it should be everyone.
In showbiz, it's not a thing.
It should be.
You know, but like, it's crazy because you're so young, because it's like, well, when you like started saying anything, because I couldn't imagine being 19 years old.
Ugh, exactly.
And it's like, you know, you're treated as an adult, but really there's people that are like in their mid 40s taking advantage of the artists. And thank God with like YouTube and SoundCloud now, because now people are needing less and less management.
Yes. And you know, we were lucky in who we encountered, because there was like a lot. I'm basically good friends with all of our managers, even a lot of the people, labels we were involved with. We got lucky because I could have gotten the most fucked by that kind of shit. I wasn't, thank God. But I did see that it's like there's not really a cushion for people. You do want people to go out and be creative, and that's why you see people like Kurt Cobain and Elliott Smith get fucked, because it's like they wanted them to be
crazy
that way. Yes, and then then there's a period where it's like you don't lift them up when. And right now, I will say, like, the organizations that I've seen try to get involved on that, like, just people who are there for creatives in that way, that, like, I don't even know if I think they don't. And I think that's why there is such a mental health thing coming up now, because like companies don't have HR departments for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're just like, are they doing well? Are they harassing women? Because if they are, we got to get rid of them. If they're being homophobic, we got to get rid. If they're being racist, they're a liability.
Yeah.
But it's also a liability to business if they're not getting help, because then they can't be really creative. They can't be the people who are going to like shift things.
Well, people have this fear that if they did get sober or clean, then they wouldn't be as creative, and then they're going to hate you and then just leave. Like there was this like video where like Lil Wayne went on stage and was like, his whole team was telling him to stop drinking lean, and he was like, anyone that has a problem with me can get the fuck out of here, and he like fired his whole team or supposedly on the internet.
Probably that night.
But it's like, you have this fear of like, well, if we tell him to stop doing drugs, he's just going to go with someone that lets him do drugs. So at least we do it in like a safe way, which is the same mentality parents have with their kids.
Exactly.
It's like, well, he's going to do drugs either way,
and then
so we're going to
they get angry because they'll see the hypocrisy in it.
Yeah.
Or at least I did at times. I'd be like, yeah, but I'm like, either do either or. Just be like, I will do whatever you want as long as you give me money.
Exactly.
Period. I don't care what you do to yourself. Like, just be honest about it. Because the guise of, it's almost like that guise of wokeness or guise of friendship can be very dark when it's like, but now where are you at?
Yeah, and it's like, if you're going to be somebody that is just the landlord, that's fine, but don't pretend to be my friend too. If you're just going to whatever.
I probably wouldn't work with them then.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But there are some people who would. There are some people like, I don't want to be friends with the people I do business with.
Exactly.
Maybe that works good on Wall Street or something. I just don't want a part of it. So it's like, because people in this industry and creativity will be like, no, like I'm different. Like I'm not like that. And then you really start to see when the shit comes down.
And then there's people who do drugs recreationally, and you can't really tell if it's like gonna become an overdose death type of thing. And then like whatever.
Man, like, that's been my experience. And like my main, like there were things that I could do, and there were things I couldn't do. For instance, drinking, I was okay with. I never really liked it that much. And I never did it enough that it affected my mania or anything like that. But I don't do it. Not necessarily because it was affecting me. Out of solidarity, because my wife has got, it just doesn't matter to me. I wouldn't be doing it anyway. It's not, I never went like, we can't drink.
You can live with it or without it.
No, fuck. I can live way without it in this case. Because are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to let my marriage.
It's like a hot dog at Home Depot.
Yes, very much so. And yes. And
sometimes I enjoy them.
Yeah, and now I'm a vegetarian, so I have to be like, I could very well eat that.
You're a vegetarian? That's cool.
But like, I'm trying. But it became, that's kind of where I ended up getting blamed for certain things, was because it was like, oh, the bipolar guy was drinking or whatever it was. And it's like, oh, then that must have been him, like, creating a lot of drama because he was, and I eventually had to go, okay, well, now I'm going to be sober for the rest of my life because I never want to hear this stuff again. It's not good for anyone, really. Like, it's kind of a vice. It's just like smoking cigarettes. Like, I quit my little e-cig, not because it was going to necessarily end my life, but because it was an unhealthy fucking thing that I could stand to lose. So it was like, I'll stand to lose this. But part of it was definitely out of this bias because I was like, it's kind of like the same bias that in Sherri's case makes her feel like shame for needing to not do stuff. I was getting shame for almost being a bipolar person who could pull off certain things.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, as soon as someone tries to attach me to a certain idea, I immediately want to prove that I'm not attached to it.
yeah, I get that. You know, it's like, I basically feel like anyone who's in a situation where they're not being understood and they're being categorized, you know, is bad. It's just bad because I don't see, you know, admitting you're bipolar or admitting you're an alcoholic or addicted or an addict. I don't see those things as shame-worthy or something that's going to make you feel. They're like comforting to me. Those words are comforting to me. I'm like, hell yeah, this is part of who I am. It's a superpower, you know. Like, but when you don't grow up with that. But if you don't grow up knowing that as much, then it's harder to come to learn that. I wish that was taught in schools.
Yeah, 1,000%. It never was brought up. And if it was brought up in a shaming way.
Yeah.
Like, if you do drugs, you're bad. Don't hang out with the drug addicts.
Drugs, depression.
Depression, like, whatever, you're weird.
Or you're like a pervert. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I'm kind of a pervert. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I have a somewhat, you know what I mean? Like, not necessarily the most, like, cut and dry sexually person.
I could get sexual too.
We all can. I think most people are pretty perverted. But the thing is, it's like, again, like they tell you how to have sex, but they don't go like, is this video kind of gross to you and make you not, like they don't, people just aren't real, you know?
It always seems like a picture of a picture.
Of course. Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like a real scenario fucking thing. They're not bringing in recovering drug addicts to school to talk about drugs and how it affects them and how the trauma and the family life goes with
or
drug
a kid couldn't
use.
stand up and go, yeah, I'm high right now. Like, is it cool? Like, I haven't done it too much. They're like, well, right now, maybe it's okay, but it's probably going to mess you up. And if it doesn't, that's cool. But you're a kid,
they would be like,
really
handcuff
decide.
that kid right now. You know what I mean?
It's like,
they wouldn't be like, yo, let's talk to the family. Let's get a therapist involved, whatever.
No.
I appreciate you coming on the show. I just want to tell you that there was like another moment when I got clean that like that song, like I Am a Transylvania. I remember.
Oh, wow. That's a deep cut. I
remember being at a meeting and just feeling like so lost. Like I got clean at 17, you know. So it's like my friends.
How old are you now?
31.
Oh, epic.
Yeah, thank you. So it's like I remember just feeling like I had no identity and like all this stuff. And I remember like leaving the meeting and like I didn't want to go home, but I had nowhere else to go. I was just like sitting in my car, and I just remember like specifically that song coming on.
I'm gonna listen to it again. You know what's crazy?
Go for it.
Thank you for that. First of all, in general, that means so much. That's why I do this 100%. You know, like I literally think of those moments when I write songs. Like, how can I create those moments? That is what I do. It's like, I'm like, how is this going to cut through someone's life and reach them, whether it's with the melody or with the word? But it's funny, like one of the dudes that we're producing is like a country guy from Texas, and he sent me a cover of that song.
Wow.
Of him just playing it straight up like Johnny Cash.
Wow.
And I'm like, how is this song that I wrote? That's a song I wrote in high school.
You wrote that in high school?
Yeah, before I'd ever toured. That's me playing my keyboard drums on my mom's like piano, on the electric piano, and just like not even to a click on some 16 track. It was a demo essentially that got leaked. I think I leaked it. Originally it came out to like people in my high school, and then I leaked it when you needed a bigger ratio on torrent sites to download more.
To get more, yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's put these Rare Say Anything songs out there. And then I was like, I get everything, ha ha.
Wow.
And then like Spotify. So I actually did leak a good amount of those songs.
Wow.
But no, so that means incredibly a lot.
Because like even for me, it's like, you know, when I got clean, I just like I literally couldn't see life getting better. Like I just couldn't see it. People would say you have potential. People would say you could be anything. You could, you know, if you just got clean, you'd have an amazing life. And I'm talking about having a year clean and still like I just not seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, sitting here with you is a testament to me of like how life comes around full circle.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's beautiful. And I hope anyone who's watching this understands that that's real and that, again, like it touches everyone. You know I felt like that with my mental health stuff, and I still do feel like that sometimes. And, you know, seeing my wife, who's like one of the strongest people, had 5 fucking kids, home births, you know, known to be like just this super mom, go through this too, and having to go through that same period. So like knowing that you're not the only person who literally feels like you have no chance is huge. You know what I mean? I think we mentioned that earlier, so it's great that you're doing this.
Hey, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being on the show.
Of course. Thank you.
This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. This show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.